commonly reported in the state of Ohio are strange encounters with short bipedal creatures with large bulbous heads, referred to by nearby residents and eyewitnesses as the Melon Head. Due to the majority of sightings of the creatures having been reported in one specific state, not much is known about the creature and its origins. When looking into the Melon Head encounters, many residents talk about an old legend of illegal experimentation sometime during the 1930s through to the late 1940s as an origin story for the creatures. Referred to as the legend of Dr. Crow, this strange story seems to have multiple retellings and variations, but holds consistent details that can be checked with modern-day information databases that support a few of the claims within the legend. According to the residents of Kirkland and the Chardon Township of Ohio, in some variations of the legend, there used to be a mental asylum or an orphanage that was located in Kirtland that had been under the ownership of a doctor known as Dr. Crow. Dr. Crow, however, was not a doctor of medicine, and so did not have his MD, but was instead a doctor of philosophy, with his PhD a part of a research group that is now completely lost to time. The legend states that the asylum or orphanage was home to a large number of children that were either mentally ill or completely abandoned to the state. Dr. Crow was then reported as having taken some of the children that had been affected with hydrocephalus, a birth defect or illness occasionally caused by disease that causes fluid to build up in their brain, and subjected them to inhumane, almost borderline torturous experiments in an effort to help cure them of their affliction. Some of these experiments included drilling holes into their skull, performing frontal lobotomies to make space for the pooling fluid, and subjecting the individuals to a wide assortment of electroshock therapy and extreme dieting practices. Other variations of the legend claim that Dr. Crow was not primarily interested in only curing hydrocephalus patients, but was instead studying the cause of hydrocephalus and purposefully subjecting the patients to experiments that would cause the condition and injury to them, only to attempt to cure them later for further research data. The legend claims that the doctor would create conditions of a stroke, purposefully cause damage to the brain through lobotomies and surgeries, subject the patients to meningitis, and record the damage the disease would do to parts of the brain that would cause hydrocephalus. The reason as to why Dr. Crow was studying hydrocephalus to such a detailed extent is unknown, though many believers of the legend claim that the experiments were sanctioned by the United States government during World War II. Although it will never be known whether or not the facts behind the reasoning are true, the end of the legend claims that the doctor would eventually receive his justice at the hands of his patients. According to one variation of the legend, the surviving patients came together and organized an attack against the doctor, ending his life and breaking out of the orphanage or mental asylum, and running into the nearby woods surrounding the Kirtland and Chardon Township. It's then believed that the survivors looked into surviving off the land using the help of some of the nearby residents, as well as searching for food from trash cans and gifts from nearby townsfolk. To this day, these survivors are cited and referred to as the Melon Heads. Although it's unlikely that the sightings of the small-bodied, large-headed creatures referred to as the Melon Heads are children who were experimented on during the 1930s to late 1940s, that have survived in the wilderness without being directly spotted or recorded, the legend is associated with the cryptid of the area, and is the commonly cited reason for their appearance. Many believe, however, that the modern-day sightings of the Melon Heads are the spirits of the children haunting the area. Another commonly recited variation of the legend of Dr. Crow and the Melon Head's origin seemed to claim that there had never been a mental asylum or orphanage in the town of Kirtland, but that the man known as Dr. Crow had been a private researcher at the center of reported child disappearances in the region. According to the legend, Dr. Crow had been a private researcher who lived near Kirtland, and had worked out a secret deal with a nearby mental asylum to be supplied with patients for the purpose of medical examination and experimentation. During these secret experimentations out of a private laboratory in his home, Dr. Crow would perform unsanctioned medical experiments on the brain, causing damage and inflicting the patient with different forms of brain injury. Many of his experiments featured giving the patients injections of radioactive isotopes to study the effects of radiation damage on the brain. As is expected, many of the doctor's patients would pass away shortly after experimentation would begin. Soon becoming desperate to finish his research, the doctor began kidnapping locals and continuing his experiments without the knowledge of the town. After several months of this, the patients then lived the rest of their lives in the woods near Kirtland, surviving off of gifts from the nearby townsfolk, or grieving parents of the children who are now horribly disfigured. Interestingly, there appears to be some reported truth to the story surrounding Dr. Crow. According to an old newspaper article published by the West Joanga Sun, a man by the name of Dr. Crow lived in the Kirtland area and had been a research scientist who conducted human trials with medical equipment for research. Though nothing else was published surrounding the man and no further evidence of a Dr. Crow is recorded. To this day, hikers and those who spend large amounts of time outdoors have allegedly reported strange people running through the forest. This could very well mean that the legends are in reference to a much stranger time dating around to the mid-1930s to early 1950s, which detail radiation experiments conducted for unknown purposes by the United States government. So what do you make of this legend? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below. It'd help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.